Okay, everyone, I think we'll go ahead and get started. I'm going to mute those that aren't muted right now, just so we don't get an echo. My name is Minnie Salas. I'm the Community Engagement Coordinator for the Mesa Police Department, and I want to thank you all so much for joining us today. I know you're all getting ready for the new school year that's going to look a little different from all the others, so I appreciate all the hard work that you're doing behind the scenes that we don't know about. But I want to go over a few things before we get started. First of all, this meeting is being recorded for anyone that is unable to attend today. We are going to be posting it online, so after probably next week sometime when it gets posted online, I'll send you all a link so you'll have it. You'll be able to view it online. I ask that you please keep your mic muted because it does give feedback, and we want to make sure that all the speakers are heard well throughout the meeting. If you have a question, please use the chat box. I know that there's an option for a virtual hand to be raised. Don't use that because it's too hard for us to keep track of the order that they come in. So if you do have a question during the presentation, just go ahead and type it there. Shannon, who's my helper today, is going to be monitoring those questions, and we will have a chance toward the end of the meeting or the second half to go over those. We do have approximately 50 people registered today, so I know a lot of more people are going to be coming in during the meeting. So please be mindful of your time. Toward the end, I ask that you only limit yourself to one question, and then if we have more time for more, you can go ahead and ask more questions then. But if we do not get to some of the questions, again, I'll be following up with an email, so we'll make sure that we get all of those answered. I want to introduce some people that we have joining us from the Mesa Police Department right now. We have Tara Hall, who's our Community Partnership Administrator and oversees the Community Engagement Division. We have Commander Bill Peters, who oversees the Superstition Division, and he's also the Chair for the Education Forum. We have Commander Chris Rash, who oversees the, I'm like, who's waving? Who oversees the school resource officers. So he's going to be doing the bulk of answering the questions, him and his team. He's being joined by Lieutenant Ryan Stokes, Sergeant Chuck Lines, Sergeant Tracy Baca as well. I think she's on here too. Yes, she is. And then a little later, our youth development team is going to go over some opportunities that they have for students too, so that you could share it with them when school starts. That's Sergeant Rob Sheehan and Cole Torres, who's our youth intervention specialist. But we also have Assistant Chief Dan Butler joining us. I know you're not going to be here for the whole time, but we want to go ahead and let you say a few words to kick this off.
I just heard a beep on my thing. Can you hear me, Minnie?
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, wonderful. Holy cow, 50 people. There's a lot of people here. This is a really cool one. Generally our forums, you know, have anywhere from 15 to 30, so 50 is quite the jump. It's pretty intimidating, actually, seeing all your guys' smiling faces.
Welcome to Webex. Enter your access code or meeting number followed by pound.
I'll mute that. Hang on just a second. If I can find who it is.
Fun, catchy music. I almost started doing my elevator dance.
Enter your attendee ID or the numeric meeting pass.
Okay, I think I got it.
So anyways, there's so many people here. There's going to be tons of questions. I had an opportunity to look at the things that Commander Rash and my team are going to be talking about. I'm not going to spend a lot of time having discussions or putting a lot of information out just to speak. So thank you guys for coming. We love working with you. We're kind of all in the same service anyway, and that's service to our community. So we all have really a similar path and things that we want to do out in our community. So appreciate you guys being here and look forward to the discussion.
All right. Thank you, Assistant Chief Dan Butler. Again, I know you're not going to be staying for the whole thing, but hopefully you can stay for a little bit. So prior to this meeting, I did ask if you had any questions to submit to us, and we did get a lot of questions. So I'm going to go ahead and let Commander Rash and his team answer those. And I know you have about 20 minutes to do that, and we'll move on to other things. But again, if you do have more questions during this presentation, feel free to type those in the chat box. So Commander Rash, it's all yours.
Hey, well, thank you, Minnie. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to everyone. Can you hear me? I want to make sure everything's good. All right, you're nodding your head yes. So I want to just start by thanking everyone for being here. And thank you as educators for what you do. Like policing, you have a very noble profession, and my thanks goes out to each one of you for the service that you provide in teaching our next generation. Quickly want to introduce myself. My name is Chris Rash. I'm commander over our Metro Division. Our Metro Division encompasses a lot of different areas, a lot of specialized units from the aviation unit, traffic unit, our school resource officer program, our Homeland Security areas, including our intelligence and counterterrorism unit, our emergency management unit, our special events. The list goes on and on. So I have a diverse work group and a diverse team that I work with, and I'm grateful for a number of them being here with me to present what we do, not only in the schools, but what we do as a police department. We are in unprecedented times for all of us that we are operating in, with not only the COVID-19 pandemic and how that's affected all of us in our work areas, and still trying to continue to provide the services that we provide. But then on top of that, all of the civil unrest that law enforcement around the country has been dealing with following the murder of George Floyd. That's been had a huge impact on law enforcement everywhere. I'd like to just start by telling you how much our community supports us. We have great support from our community, and that doesn't happen by accident. That happens from a lot of diligent effort in consistently and continually engaging with the community and building trust in all of our interactions that we have with the members of our community. And that has happened and occurred over the course of my 26 years in the police department and before. We have a long established history of having good, open communication and building trust with members of our community. And that is demonstrated in the fact that we've not had a lot of the things that you've seen around the country occurring here in Mesa. While we have had protests, and we've had some of the largest numbers of protests as far as gathering of individuals that we've had in the history of Mesa, those have all been very peaceful, and we've not had the same type of impact that a lot of other communities are dealing with. And we believe that that is because of the great work and partnership that the Mesa Police Department has with our community. We are a progressive police department. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the training that our officers go through. And I know that was one of the questions that was brought up. What are you guys doing with training, specifically when it comes to implicit and explicit bias training? All of our officers are trained through the Mesa Police Academy. Every police officer in the state of Arizona has to be certified, and the governing board that certifies police officers in the state of Arizona is called the Arizona Post, Arizona Peace Officer and Standards and Training Board. And they require every police academy to give a minimum amount of hours of training to an individual who wants to become a police officer, and they require 585 hours of training. The city of Mesa, we established our police academy 26 years ago. I was in class number 2 of the Mesa Police Academy. And our police department, our city, requires 880 hours of basic academy training before our recruits graduate and become police officers here in Mesa. Those hours make up everything that it takes to become a police officer, but include training in interpersonal communication, mental health, cultural awareness. We have what's called ICAT training, which is integrating communications, assessment, and tactics. And it's really a training that's designed to de-escalate situations when an individual is suffering from a mental health crisis or some other type of crisis, and they're armed with a weapon other than a firearm. After an officer graduates the academy, they also attend a field training program that is a very extensive program where they ride with a veteran officer. And during that time, they also get additional classroom instruction that includes continuing instruction in interpersonal communications. They learn, they have a training called the Holocaust lessons, and they learn things from the Holocaust that they can apply to policing today regarding bias, regarding how the police were viewed during the Holocaust, and how to avoid situations like that or that could be perceived. And they take and translate those lessons to modern day policing. They also receive training in the history of Mesa and our diversity. Also, African American history they receive training in. During the field training program, they receive additional training in fair and impartial policing, as well as mental health training. Our entire department for the last number of years, in 2016, 2017, 2018, received de-escalation training, learning how to de-escalate situations rather than escalate them. And the goal being to use the least amount of force in trying to accomplish our mission. And oftentimes that involves taking someone into custody and arresting them. But we try to de-escalate situations when we have volatile situations, and we try to de-escalate those as quickly as we can. And we continue to have de-escalation training built into our training plans every 2 years. So an officer every 2 years is getting continued training in de-escalation tactics. In 2018, I mentioned the ICAT training that our new officers go through. Everyone in the department received ICAT training in 2018. And in 2019, everyone in our department received fair and impartial policing training that was directly related to implicit and explicit bias training and how to apply that in our daily work. I wanted to talk about just briefly before I turn it over to my team is the things that we do to engage the community. And I talked about the trust that's been developed. That's been developed because of our community engagement and the positive interactions that we have thousands and thousands of times during a week, during a month with the public. We engage in the community in many different positive ways. And I'll just give you a personal story, I guess, highlight it and not go into a lot of detail, but this happened to me one morning as I was driving to work. I drive an unmarked car. I was getting off the freeway and I noticed a marked unit on the corner of the freeway and the side street I was getting off on. And there was a homeless person sitting on the corner, and the officer was talking to the homeless person. I could tell, I couldn't tell what they were saying, and I didn't know what the call was that they were on. But I could tell that the officer was talking to him about the location that they were at. And there were no trespassing signs and so forth and so on. I was watching the interaction. At the end of the interaction, what impressed me was that the officer gave this person a hug, and there was a big smile on the person's face. Even though I knew that the officer was probably telling the person that they couldn't be at that particular location because of the no trespassing warnings, that officer had empathy and took things to that next level and showed human, just human nature about himself in the way he dealt with that person. And that person left the area with a smile on their face, and that was a positive interaction. And that happens thousands of times each week in the city of Mesa with our officers. And there was no one filming that, no one looking at it. The only people that knew about that were that homeless person and that officer. And to me, that speaks volumes for the culture of our organization when you see that kind of thing happen. There are quite a number of things that we do to engage the community. I'll just highlight a couple of them. We have ongoing community forums that meet on a regular basis, where our officers are working with members from the community in different forums. This one being one of them, the education forum, meeting with educators. We have them for the clergy. We have them for, we have an African American forum, a Hispanic forum, quite a number of different forums that continually collaborate and address concerns that the community members have. And it's a great opportunity for us to really understand how to better reach certain segments of our community. We continually engage in service projects, and our officers do everything from things on their own to organized events. You know, every year at Christmas time, there's always dozens of families that are adopted by our officers and have gifts taken to them and meals prepared. Our officers are volunteering in food lines and so forth during the holidays. But it's not just during the holidays, it happens throughout the year. Our officers are constantly engaged in service projects within the community. And I'll just tell you, I'm a Mesa native, born and raised, graduated from Mesa High School, and quite a number of our officers are in the same shoes as me. They're members of the community themselves. They're raising their families here. And so we are part of the community ourselves. One of the questions related to how can we partner, or how can we partner with the officers in our beat? And I think this specifically came from elementary schools. We have a very good school resource officer program, and I'll have the sergeants and lieutenant over that speak here shortly. They have a great relationship with the high schools and the junior highs. Where we have kind of a gap is in the elementary schools. We don't have officers in all the elementary schools. So that question, I think, is a great question. How can we partner better at the elementary school level? How can we get officers in there so that the administration knows who the officers are that work that area? I think meeting with beat officers, calling, just having an administrator call up and ask to speak to a beat officer. The beat officers in their downtime can surely come by and visit with you and begin to develop those relationships of trust. And that's something I'll be talking with in our commander meetings with our patrol commanders is how can we get more engaged with the elementary schools, especially right now with COVID-19 and the challenges that we have with online schooling. I think that there's room for improvement in how we can connect. That's one of the things we're going to be meeting this week with the school resource officer leadership team to discuss with online schooling, how are we going to be able to complete our mission in that environment and make connections with those students, especially those that are at risk. So with that, I want to turn the remainder of the time over to Lieutenant Ryan Stokes and Sergeants Tracy Baca and Sergeant Chuck Lyons to kind of talk about some of the additional questions that we received that are pertinent to their areas working in the School Resource Officer Program. Ryan?
Thank you. Is my microphone working? Awesome. As leading up to this meeting, I was thinking back, way back when I was in elementary school. I never thought back in elementary school that I'd be sitting where I'm at now. And I can probably say, based upon some of my choices in elementary school, my teachers probably never thought that I would be sitting in this chair also. But I'm a lieutenant over our counterintelligence unit, as well as our SROs and our fusion center that I'll talk about here in a minute or so. I know we're short on time. One of the questions came up as, what does a typical day look like for an officer? What kind of special equipment do we use? Commander talked about the 880 hours, as well as the 4 to 5 months of FTO training, where the officers are sitting side by side with an officer training. When you get on your own, it is a very unique feeling, a unique situation when you're driving around going, wow, I have all this responsibility that's been put on me. I'm expected to know all the laws, all the ins and outs of policies. But I like to break it down think of what an officer goes through every day and the equipment that we use as a toolbox. When we show up to the job, when we show up to any specific call, we want to make sure that we have those tools available for that type of call. We don't know, it could be a traffic stop. We don't know how that call is going to transpire. We could show up on a domestic call, a shoplifting call, and we want to make sure that we have all the tools necessary. Some of the basic things, without getting into too much detail and doing a demo, one of the most important lifelines that I think of is our radio. When you think of your radio, that's going to be able to communicate with all the other officers, give dispatch information. So if they need to send additional resources in the fire department, that's your lifeline to be able to communicate with everyone else that's out there on the street. Some of the safety things that we use, traffic vests, obviously, flashlights. We all wear, for patrol officers, they wear the body armor, they carry pepper spray, handcuffs, baton, taser, firearm, keys. Something that when I was in patrol that we really didn't talk about a few years back was PPE. Obviously, that has changed in the last 4 to 5 months with the COVID pandemic. All the officers, as you see them rolling around in marked patrol cars, detectives, they're all now wearing PPE. They're all wearing their masks. Depending on the type of call that they go on, they could put on gloves all the way down to the full gown and the mask PPE. Similar to a school administrator or a teacher or a principal, you have different things that you're going to do on a daily basis. Well, patrol officers have that same responsibility. Every day they're going to come in, they're going to make sure that their vehicle is ready to go. They're going to attend some kind of briefing that goes over the night before or the shift before highlights, go over crime trends, any community meetings, any special requests to stop by a school zone. I know when school starts, we get a lot of requests for the traffic unit as well as officers just to show up and have a presence in and around the school areas when kids are walking to and from school. One of the other units that I oversee is our East Valley Fusion Center. So our East Valley Fusion Center is set up where we have 8 full-time police agencies all housed here at the Mesa Police Department, which include Apache Junction, Gilbert, Tempe, Chandler, Scottsdale, Salt River, Mesa, and we have part-time agencies, the ATF, the FBI, the TSA, where we're all housed here in one building, one room. This gives us the opportunity. One of the questions was about working with Salt River. We have a Salt River detective that is housed here in our Fusion Center, where anything Salt River related, we have on site a person that we can directly go to for questions, for any situation that might arise within the Indian community on the reservation. It's more like think of it as a giant network sharing room where rather than calling or sending emails, we actually have physical people sitting in here and are able to share the information a lot quicker. I'm going to turn it over to Chuck and Tracy just to give a quick overview of our SRO program, how many SROs we have, and what the SRO program looks like.
Thank you, Lieutenant Stokes. Can everybody hear me okay? Yeah? Okay, my name is Chuck Lyons. I'm a sergeant in the School Resource Officer Unit, along with Sergeant Tracy Baca, who is also here with us, I believe. We currently have 16 officers that work in the Mesa, Gilbert, and Queen Creek Unified School Districts. We have 1 Queen Creek school, East Mark High School, 3 Gilbert schools that we work in, Desert Ridge High School, Desert Ridge Junior High, and Highland Junior, and then all of the junior high and high schools in Mesa. So we have 16 full-time school resource officers that cover those schools. One of the questions that was asked was, what can school leaders do to establish relationships with the best cops in our community, with the beat cops in our community? Those probably synonymous right there. Just showing support is huge, but inviting, especially for the elementary schools that don't have a school resource officer on campus, it's important to recognize them in the school so that the children can see that there is a police officer in the area, put a face to the uniform. And the way you can go about doing that is just contacting the district that your school happens to be in. The city is broken down into 4 districts. Contact the district that your school is in and invite a patrol officer to attend either an assembly or a presentation in some way, shape, or form in your school. Just get that face recognition there with the children attending the elementary schools. It's also important to develop that relationship with the beat officers in the junior highs and high schools, because there will be occasions where a school resource officer has to call in sick, is unexpectedly absent, and any emergency calls will then go to the beat officers. So much the same way, just providing that invitation to the districts. Inviting a patrol officer to be present at the school, just walk around, give a tour, invite them to lunch, something like that would go a long ways in getting that recognition out there for the beat officers. Tracy, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
Sure. I'm Tracy Baca, and I am one of the sergeants over the SRO unit. And just to let you guys know, last week, all of our SROs paired together with whatever high schools and junior highs are together, like Rhodes, Dobson, we had Westwood, Carson, and they each walked each other's schools again, because we do have some new SROs, walked the inside, getting to know the cafeteria, the auditorium, and all that. And they also went by the elementary schools. I don't know if some of you principals probably met some of them. And if people weren't there, we told them to walk around, introduce themselves to the elementary schools that are around them also. So again, like Chuck said, if you guys are having assemblies or potlucks, anything like that, you can send an email to the district and we get those out to the beat officers. That's a good way to get to know them. Student engagement. I know that our SROs, some of them are a lot busier than others, like during lunch and stuff. Our high schools tend to be a little bit busier with cases. But I do know that some of our SROs during lunch have open gym at some of their schools and have started supervising that area because they want to open the gym and let some of the girls practice cheerleading and stuff. So the engagement with the students is really, really good. During our breaks, we, like our commander mentioned, we do the toy drive, and all the SROs pick kids that are in their school that are the needy kids, and we home deliver those toys to the house. And I think that makes a big impact. And we also reach out to the group homes, children in Mesa. So there's some elementary kids, junior high and high school, and over the breaks we always, they're more of our high risk kids for runaways and stuff like that. So we think it's really important for them to see us not in uniform all the time. So just so you guys know, over the breaks we reach out to numerous group homes and we have picnics with them, we go fishing with them, and it's been really, really great. So a lot of these kids in return, instead of running away, or if they're having problems with somebody in the group home or a kid at school, a lot of them have gotten really close with the officers and will go to them and for help, or if they're feeling suicidal, or if they're feeling frustrated. So I think that has been a really great thing that we have been doing also.
That we have a very positive relationship with the student body, with the faculty, the administrators in all of the schools that we're working in. So that's one of the big objectives for the school resource officers, to build those positive relationships with the student body. We've had cases where, because of the positive relationship that one particular school resource officer created in his school, there was a student that felt comfortable going to him and expressing that she had suicidal thoughts and suicidal tendencies, and he was able to get her the help that she needed. So that's one of the things that we strive to do, is to build those positive relationships, and both with the faculty, the administrators, and the student body. I know we're running way late. Minnie?
Yeah, thank you so much for that. I'm learning a lot myself about what the SROs do, so this is great. I did want to say thank you, by the way, to Bill Schultz, who said in the chat box, officers are always welcome for lunch, I'll buy. So thank you for that. Before we do move on, though, to the Youth Development Department and some of the opportunities that they have, are there any questions so far that any of you have right now that you'd like to ask? And I'll go ahead and let you unmute yourself. I'll give you a little bit of time if you do have a question. Otherwise, we'll move on. Okay, so I don't see anything right now. So I'm going to let Sergeant Sheehan go over some of the programs that we do in the Youth Development Department. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so you can actually see some of the fun things that they do as well. Here we go. Okay. Sergeant Sheehan, if you can unmute yourself, it's all yours.
All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here with us this evening. I'm, like Minnie said, I'm Sergeant Robert Sheehan. I'm over our Youth Development Unit. Our Youth Development Unit consists of 2 officers and 1 civilian youth intervention specialist. And she's on here, Nicole Torres. She's here with us. She's going to go over a couple of our set in stone programs that we've been running for quite a few years, like the one you can see on our screen now, the Keno Junior High School After School Program. That's been in existence since 2007. Nicole will talk a little bit about that, and then I'll talk about some of the other things we've done with elementary schools and other things we've done in the youth. So I'm going to turn it over to Nicole. And,
Hi, so nice to see you all here. I just want to talk about our Mesa program. I also see Principal Delbeck and with us today. We want to say thank you to her for having us there at Keno Junior High and allowing us to do the after school program. It is a out of school time award excellence winner last year. We essentially are at Keno. We do 9 weeks in the fall and 9 weeks in the spring. We have anywhere from 18 to 30 students with us. We do an hour of physical exercise and activity, and then an hour of life skills, character building with the kids there at Keno. So we also do tutoring, and it's a really fun program. We really enjoy the time we get to spend with the teens there. One of our other programs, we'll have many there you go. We do Police Activities League. One of those programs we do that falls in that category is called We Run Mesa. It's a run club that we do with help from a community partner at Eagles Community Center. And we have kids from La Mesita and also kids who can sign up through Eagles Community Center that do a weekly run program there at the Eagles Community Center. We do a program called Teen Court, and we do that in partnership with Maricopa County Juvenile Probation Department and also Mesa Counts on College Access Center. So I see Lisa on the call as well. Thank you for partnering with us for the program. It's essentially cases heard of teen defendants by teens. So a jury of their peers. The kids are attorneys, bailiffs, jurors. They get to hear a case, a real life case, and give consequences. So we do recruit for these programs as well. So we'll have some information at the end of the presentation that would allow all of you to get back in touch with us so that you can have kids join our programs. And then our Rad Kids Safety Education, that's for kids ages 6 to 12. We usually do that 3 to 4 times a year. It's all about staying safe, how you walk to school, what you do if you encounter people who are trying to do things that aren't so great. So we teach simple defense skills, and we practice with the kids as we go along, so they really get to see how to use those skills. So those are some of our programs that we do, and I'll hand it back over to Sergeant Sheehan to kind of complete some of the other programs that we do.
Okay. Yes, like Nicole said, so a lot of those programs involve youth who are in middle school aged. Rad Kids is a little bit younger. We've done those. We love to host one out at the school. I see that in the comments that you love to have there. We'll have our contact information. We can go out there. Some of the other programs. This one, the Youth Leadership Academy, it goes in line with our school resource officers. We send out the application to the school resource officers who identify kids in the high schools. They are for sophomores, juniors, seniors who show leadership potential. They come out in the summertime for 2 weeks. And like you see, we have them scaling down a 7-story fire tower that really shows them that they can overcome a lot of their fears. We teach first aid and a lot of different leadership principles. We also, you could see that we do community service project. A lot of our community service projects throughout the year are focused towards veterans. Like in this picture here, last summer, we had to cancel this summer, obviously due to COVID, but last summer, we donated, or we helped refurbish a house that was donated to a Navy veteran where her brother was dying of cancer. And so she moved out here from California, couldn't really afford a place. So this residence was donated to her, and we did all the rehab work along with one of our community partners. Here you can see the SROs working side by side with kids from their schools. So that's really an awesome part of it, where, you know, it's not just within the school where these officers are showing how much they care. They're out there working side by side with them during the summer. So that's a really cool program. We have about 50 kids in it. So any of you want to promote that throughout your schools, we're always welcoming kids throughout there. That is available to kids throughout all of our Mesa high schools. And since obviously you all know that the school boundaries doesn't follow the city boundaries, we had kids in our last one that went from Gilbert, Queen Creek, and Santan Valley. They also ended up in the program too. So we don't discriminate on city lines. If we have kids in Tempe or Chandler or Gilbert and they want to partake in our program, we're more than happy to have them. And it's really cool to see them come together. Even on their own, the kids created an alumni association. So to this day, I mean, years later, it keeps building. They still get together once a month at one of their houses and kind of reminisce and just be friendship. So you have kids from Dobson, and then you have kids from Skyline interacting and becoming friends through our program. So that's really cool. Next slide. This one is more for the elementary school. Last year, we did a Play 60 event with the Arizona Cardinals. We're more than happy to come out to your school with the Arizona Cardinals. We'll do athletic sports with the football. We also do a basketball camp at the Boys and Girls Club, where we have our Mesa Police basketball team come out, shoot some hoops with the kids, and it's just a lot of fun. So we're always out there trying to interact with kids, show them, hey, we're just normal people who like to have fun, stay fit, stay healthy. So that one was at Keller Elementary School. And kind of going off on a side note, real cool thing with this one was it was just before Christmas. And after the event was over, we were talking, and one little girl came up to us and she said, hey, what are you guys doing for Christmas? And so we kind of had a little conversation and asked if, Santa Claus was coming to her house. And she said, no, my family doesn't have any money for that. And it turns out that her family was a refugee family from Iraq. And the dad had just lost his job, so he couldn't really provide that Christmas. So we worked with a lot of our community partners, and we were able to give them and 8 other families this Christmas a very wonderful Christmas. We delivered all the presents there and everything like that. So that's a real cool story that we had from just kind of spurred off of that event, just having a conversation with a little girl. So these things kind of trigger into that. You can go on the next slide, Minnie. Another event that we have is we have our police cadet post. This is for kids who are from the age of 14. So as long as they've graduated 8th grade, all the way till their 21st birthday, they'll graduate on their 21st birthday. This is kind of a para police type of a group. So they learn leadership skills. They learn a lot of police codes, streets, things like that. They learn about the day in the life of a police officer. And these kids are awesome. So they go to school full time all day long. Most of them, they're all high school students. So most of them have a job. Plus I've averaged about 6,000 hours a year to the city of Mesa. They'll work our Easter egg events. They'll work all of the city events. They'll direct traffic. They've done security at the police canine trials to make sure that the police cars don't stop running with the dogs in them and then, get heated up and the dogs die. So they do a lot of things for the police department. They do a lot of things for the city of Mesa. Tons of community service project, huge resume builder for these kids. And a lot of them, they go off into the military. We actually just have one kid. Actually, he's where it's the whole group of them with the flag. He's the one standing up in uniform off to the left. He just graduated the police academy and he's now a police officer recruit in field training with us. So, tons of experiences for them. Actually, with one girl, she got a scholarship through the Army and now she's flying in Apache attack helicopters for the Army. So great experience, great resume builders for these high school kids to get involved. Again, that's from 14 to 21 years old for those kids. Go on the next slide. Some of the things that we've done at the elementary schools is we did a book reading with kids. So we had an officer read a book in Spanish over at Longfellow Elementary and also at Jefferson Elementary. We've done the walk, bike, roll to school event. We've also had officers on top of the beat officers. I see a lot in comments about how they love the beat officers to drop in and stuff like that. Our youth development officers have come in and given school safety talks. You can see we still have McGruff, the crime dog, sticking around. That was a fun one because we asked who knows McGruff, and none of the kids raised their hands, but all the teachers and parents did. So we're trying to bring McGruff back because we think that's a really cool idea. McGruff also makes a lot of appearances during game night. We go to different neighborhood parties and introduce McGruff the crime dog to a lot of kids, hand out stickers, and just really interact and have a good time. Next slide. We've also gone and done a lot of school career days at several schools. We've gone to Salk, Desert Ridge, Shepherd Junior High through their STEAM events. We had the helicopter land. Motor officers showed up. We've done the career day over at Mesa High School also and talked with the kids. And the nice thing too with that is we see kids coming up from the Mesa program who go out to Westwood, Dobson, Mesa High. We get to re-see those kids now doing a great job in a standard curricular school of high school. So it's really cool interaction with those kids. Go ahead with the next slide. Since COVID hit, a lot of our youth programs have dropped off. Obviously, we can't do a lot of interaction things. So what we did was we ended up identifying a lot of our families that were in need who couldn't go out, whether because a family member has cancer, they don't have a car, things like that. We've arranged with, we partnered with Midwest Food Bank. We picked up a lot of food boxes. Our officers went out there, they were delivering food boxes to the families. We also partnered with Holmes Elementary and Lehigh Elementary, where we gave out books to kids during their lunch handouts, just to keep those kids interacted and have them continue reading throughout the summer. For the last month, we've been partnering with the Boys and Girls Club. We'll go out there once a week, and you can see in the pictures where we're doing an activity with the kids. Just last Tuesday, Nicole and Officer Martinez, they went and decorated gingerbread or graham cracker things with the kids where they got to eat it, and that was pretty fun. And then we also just hosted our virtual teen town hall where we had kids from the Boys and Girls Club and Child Crisis on there, along with kids in the community who had questions about COVID. They had questions about, like Commander Rash talked about, the social unrest in the country. They had questions about police use of force and things like that. So we hosted a teen town hall for kids who are 14 to 18. Just to kind of keep the topic relevant for them. So that was a great outcome with the kids and good information to them too. So you can go to the next slide. And then we just create an Instagram page. So if you like the page, we're posting a lot of information on all these things, on the Teen Court, on the Leadership Academy, showing pictures. We're also part of Mesa Alliance, where we're teaching basically healthy habits during this pandemic. A lot of kids are getting cooped up. They're getting sad, having thoughts of self-harm and stuff like that. So we just started a campaign of healthy lives, healthy vibes with the Mesa Prevention Alliance. And basically we're getting kids involved to shoot videos of them working out, watching TV, walking the dog, simple things on how they're keeping sane and keeping their minds healthy and active. And we're kind of like the ice bucket challenge. We're trying to get that out there with these kids. And so it's just starting to take off. And we posted one of our cadets. She was out there working out. She did a great job in sharing that with other youth. So we're just trying to get that word out there that you don't have to turn to drugs. You can work out, you can stay healthy, and you can do the, just stay vigilant with your self-care. So that's all I got. I know we're running out of time. So any other questions or anything like that? Like I said, you can email me. It's robertsheehan@mesaz.gov. And I'll put my email out there. You can reach out to us. Like I said, we're more than happy to come out to elementary schools, junior highs, high schools. I know the patrol officers, they're super busy and they do drop in when they can. Our unit is strictly 100% youth engagement. So we don't carry caseloads or anything like that. It's just, that's the blessing I have to go out and have fun and play sports with kids and teach them on how to be safe in their community.
All right, thank you, Sergeant Sheehan. I see a lot of comments in the chat box and some elementary schools wanting to know how we can get those programs in their schools. So Nicole Torres did share her information on there, and I know Commander Rash also shared his information too, and we're always open to feedback and ways that we can support you and what you're doing as well. But do we have any questions? We have about another 15 minutes, so if you do have any questions, you don't have to type it in the chat box. You can go ahead and unmute yourself and go ahead and ask. And Sergeant Sheehan just shared his information as well. So anybody have any questions? Or any comments, feedback you'd like to give us?
I'll speak up if you guys can hear me. My name is Brady Bond. I am the athletic director and assistant principal over safety and security for Westwood High School. Just wanted to comment. Thank you for having this. I think this is a great first step in the things we want to see in education, and a great thing that we're building these relationships and opening these lines of communications with each other. I think our kids will benefit greatly with increased participation with our school resource officers, being willing to have those tough conversations with our students and developing those relationships in a positive way. At Westwood, we've created something called the Warrior Council, which is aiming at giving our students a voice, talking about the things that are going on in the world with the racial injustices and the different things that are going on, and giving them a platform to talk about these type of things. So I think this is, like I said, a great first step from both the school side and from a police department side. And I personally want to thank each and every one of you for your service, and hope that we can continue these conversations in these positive ways and find ways to continue to improve. And I know I want to work even closer with my school resource officer and our district security to be more visible and develop these relationships, because in the grand scheme of things, it's all about developing relationships. I want our school resource officer to be seen as a positive person in our community, and not just someone that they see when they're getting into trouble. And I think that's the direction that I hope that we're all heading. And I think listening to all you guys, I know that's where everybody wants to be. But again, I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you letting me get on my soapbox for a couple minutes, and I, again, appreciate Minnie for putting this stuff together and opening these lines of communication.
I think you're on mute.
Thank you. I wanted to say thank you for that, Brady, because I know you sent a lot of questions to us just a couple of days ago, and it's great to get that participation from the community so that we know that we're, you know, all on the same page and what it is that we can do. Any other questions?
A quick question. I think it might be the way that I entered and maybe for other people. Would you be able to email out all the contact info? Because on my end, I can't see a chat. But thank you for putting this all together, and thank you to all the officers for your service.
Yes, I will definitely do that. I'll follow up with an email. If you can't see the information in the chat, I'll make sure that I add it all in there too. Does anybody else have any questions or comments? And Bill Schultz, I want to remind everybody, he said he would buy lunch for the officers. Right. Well, I know we have a lot of people on here, so really, I mean, we could end it early, but I want to make sure that everyone has a chance to say anything they want to say or ask anything that they want to ask while they have a chance.
Hey, Minnie. So, hi, I'm Tara. In closing, yeah, I mean, I feel like you guys heard a lot from us. And I think this platform really does allow for us to be able to reach a broader group and then also hear from you. So we really do want to continue these conversations, but us be able, you did send us a lot of questions, but we want to hear from you in this setting. So even if it comes to uncomfortable conversations or, you know, I thought it was great, Brady's talking about counsel for students. Maybe we can look at having those students come and talk to us, and so that they're really out there, they're the ones feeling it and hearing and having concerns or positive, you know, we don't know, but we'd love to have those conversations and continue on the dialogue. So thank you all for your time today. Thank you to Assistant Chief Butler. I see he's still on here. Thank you for being a part of this, and your leadership drives what it is that my division does and a lot of what our support does here with Mesa PD. So thank you, Commander Rash, I know Commander Peters is in there. He supports our school education forum and a lot of our community forums. So thank you. And then the SRO unit and my youth development team. Also, within this first year, Minnie is fairly new to our agency, so she has a radio background, a media background, and has really been able to step up our outreach in terms of these virtual settings, and really just being able to connect our community. And so we're happy to have her. And please look forward to more conversations, at least in this way during COVID. But again, just seeing all that stuff that Rob was talking about with our youth development team, it really made me go, I can't wait for us to get back out there. You know, like I missed that. And I'm sure that you guys all miss that too at your schools with the kids and the energy. We can connect this way virtually in a room, but it's just not the same as connecting in person. So really looking forward to hopefully getting back to some form of normalcy and being able to maybe even meet in person down the road. So with that, Chief Butler, did you want to close it with anything quickly since we have a few more minutes?
Minnie, this is Amy Delatoria at Longfellow, and I just had some questions in the chat that I just wanted to address. Somebody asked, how can we, what do our elementary schools need? And being the principal at Longfellow, you know, I think I feel that when we have officers come to our campus, there's a really good relationship that is built just from that. And several principals had said that coming to just be there so our students see officers in a different way than maybe sometimes they do. I've had officers play basketball with students, being out there in the mornings just to say good morning to them, things like that. And I think that's really huge. But I think that, you know, there's somebody else asked about serving students and hearing from students. And I would say that at the elementary level, those conversations can start then, right? Like we can start talking to our elementary students about their concerns or things that they might be feeling. And that would be huge because that's that early intervention to start building relationships at that younger age. And so I would welcome that on my campus, to build some type of student council, some of those conversations and surveys. So I just want to put that out there.
Oh, those are great points. Thank you for sharing that.
I saw that someone said, I agree with Martina, maybe a student survey as well we can give to our intermediate students in elementary to hear what they have to say. I wasn't sure what Martina had said, but I just wanted to remind everybody that, the town halls, for example, that the youth development team held recently, they're going to be doing more of those. So that's a great way to hear from them also. And we'll send you all that information too when they put one together. So with that, I guess, Tara, I'll go ahead and let you close it out.
I said what I said some good words and moved it forward. I think Dan Butler's got his unmuted, so I'm going to turn it over to him.
Sure. Yeah, I'll just jump on as it's wrapping up. One of the things that I wanted to just bring up as this group continues to grow and get a little bit more comfortable, nothing really is off the table here. In a lot of our other forums, we really get some tough, pointed questions. And if you don't ask those questions, you never get our perspective or our response. And you heard from a lot of us today, we can talk. I mean, we do a great job at going on and on and on. So much so that a couple of us fell asleep. Thankfully, they turned their cameras off as it was going. But please ask those questions as we go along. I know you guys have questions that aren't just related to education, our schools, our teachers, our principals, our students, and the police department, but some larger, broader societal type questions. And we're happy to answer those. We're happy to tell you what we're doing. We're as transparent as we absolutely can be. If it's something that we can't talk about, hey, we'll just say, yeah, I really can't because of an ongoing investigation, pending litigation. I mean, those are the things that really kind of hamper us from being open and honest. Well, just open, I guess, because we will be honest at the time. So please, as this goes forward, let's have those conversations. That's actually why I stuck around, just to make sure that everybody knew from the top level of our organization that we want those types of conversations. So hit us with them. Sometimes you may not like the answer. Sometimes you'll really like the answer, but we don't grow, we don't get better unless we start having those conversations. So transitioning from that, one thing I just want to bring up is that we do our community engagement academies. I think the email that I read last was our next scheduled one is October. Is that right, Tara?
I think it's September.
Oh, September?
September is the next one, yes.
So I know Brady Pond, with what he's doing with the students, but everybody else in here, it's a one-day event on a Saturday. We spread them out all throughout the city of Mesa, and it is an incredible opportunity for you. And it's not, unfortunately, it's not for a lot of our student age, but for you as educators to get a really in-depth, comprehensive look, as much as you can in a day, at what it is to be police officers. But also, you guys get this a lot because you work with our school resource officers and a lot of our police officers to begin with. But what it's like to be the person underneath the police officer. People will go in, we'll have our officers go in and tell their life story. And, it just kind of, as strange as it may sound, most times people identify with what they're wearing, not the individual who's on the inside. And once they start hearing, hey, that person's just like me, or they came from a background just like me, it really starts to break down some of those barriers that exist. And again, with you guys, I think we're already really close, but I encourage you all to attend that. We do cap the size of those things just so we can have enough of a interaction and it can be intimate for us. But we do them 4 times a year as soon as this COVID thing's over. And then finally, as this meeting started, I was the weirdo that left his mute button off, and I was watching the news behind. But it got to the point where the governor was talking about opening schools, and I didn't get to hear. So if anybody has any information on what he decided with the schools, I would love to hear that, because it'll save me some reading later on.
Keiko, I'm from Keno, and I want to give a shout out to Nicole and to Officer Martinez because and Sergeant Sheehan, because we have a really great relationship with them, and as far as working with Mesa program, and it makes a difference with our kids on campus. one of the things that I know from an equity standpoint and from a cultural standpoint that Mesa is really working towards is the social emotional aspect for our kids coming back. Obviously, all of us, including, you know, like the people who are in the room, have experienced some type of trauma related to the pandemic or whatnot. But on top of it, a school like mine that has a high population of Black students and Brown students who have experienced this kind of just this like repeated racial trauma, if you will. How I hear a lot about how the police officers are working to kind of humanize themselves, but I guess, and it sounded like there was training involved, but how is there training that you guys are working on as far as how to talk? Like what's going to be different with the officers who are engaging with our kids? And would it help that as we are, you know, like I don't know what the expectation is for SROs or for other officers to be included or part of the social emotional training that I, as an administrator, do for my teachers on campus. So I'm just curious to know that it sounds like there's a lot of humanizing the police officer, which is really very important. But I'm wondering about how are officers being trained to approach and engage with kids, because, you know, they'll come to you for stickers, but like the other issue that we have is that it's not always the kids that are coming for stickers that are the ones that need to be engaged with. It's the ones who are hanging back and who are quiet, and their trauma manifests in that kind of quiet way. So I was curious to know how that's being addressed by the Mesa Police Department.
Yeah, there's so much to that. I mean, you're talking about just multiple layers of impacts that, you know, that go into the life of one of those children. And so you heard Chris Rash talk about it. It starts in our academy, right? So we have the longest academy in the state. We do more training than everybody else. And in fact, I'm actually in plans of extending it another couple of weeks and adding more curriculum. But in 2018, we took our basic fundamental communication class that's required by the state. So every officer in the state is required to experience 4 hours of training in communication, which I know you guys' jaws are dropping because ours was as well. But we in Mesa took that thing to 40 hours of training in communications. That incorporates different aspects of our community. So we know what the demographic breakdown of our community is, both social and economic, and we take that into consideration. So we've increased, you know, Spanish outreach, educational outreach. I know Tracy Baca's on here. One of the classes that she taught for years and years, and Tracy, forgive me, I don't know if you are still teaching this, was a class, really it's a class on privilege, and there's an awesome interaction that she does that highlights that class to a lot of our officers and shows that just because everybody's a police officer recruit doesn't mean that everybody had the same background and upbringing. From there, so that's the foundation aspect of it. From there, you heard Chris Rass talk about getting that exposure, and you guys know this. I mean, you're in education. The more educated we are as people, the different, the way our worldview changes. So there was an article that came out in the late 90s, early 2000s in policing, and it basically said, and I'll use Robert Sheehan because him and I actually just talked about this just the other day. But it basically said of police officers who receive complaints, 75% or so of them that only had a high school education or a GED are the ones that get complaints for all the various reasons. But the officers with higher education receive significantly less. So that's another thing that we do is we encourage education for our officers. In Mesa, we are one of the few agencies who still pay tuition reimbursement for our officers. So we give every officer that chooses to go get an undergrad or graduate degree $8,000 a year to go to that. On top of that, being education is the focus, we just partnered with Maricopa County Community College District and developed a fundamental leadership and education certification that any officer that wants to become a supervisor in our police department, they have to not only have the educational requirements, formal education requirements, attend all of the training that we do every single year. And I have the numbers here. Every one of our police department, we have 1,300 employees here. We train every person in here 98,000 hours, not individually, but as a whole, 98,000 hours of continuing education every single year. So it's significant, the amount of and that's every year. And I have my numbers right here going back the last 4 years. So almost 100,000 hours of continuing training that our officers go through every single year, well above and beyond the mandated 8 hours that the state requires. So we're at last check, we were like 6 times higher than the state required minimum for training in Mesa. So back to that certification program, it's a program that we developed in collaboration with Maricopa County Community College District that in 2 years, in 2 years, it will be mandatory that you have that certification completed before you can even hit the minimum requirements to test for our first line supervisor position in our department. So on top of that, we budget from a police department perspective $100,000 a year specifically to individuals throughout our organization to send them to advanced training courses. Myself, I spent 3 weeks in Boston at Harvard last year going through a coursework on progressive policing is really what it was, and staying at the tip of the quote unquote spear and being an agency that is, sticking with what societal expectations are. So we do a lot, so much in order to keep our officers educated, in order to be good partners with our community.
Thank you for that question, Kaiko, and thank you for the answer there, Assistant Chief Butler. I want to be mindful of everyone's time. I know we had somebody that already had to log off, so I just want to thank you all again for coming. I want to thank you all for everything that you're doing behind the scenes, like I said earlier, that we don't know about, because I know this is going to be a very challenging school year. But just know that we're here to support. You all have my contact information, and I will be following up again with an email next week, and I will add all the contact information for the people that were on this meeting to, that talked about the youth development and talked about SROs. So again, thank you all so much for coming, and just keep an eye out for that. Have a good night.